now. Someone is plotting against you. Not with weapons or armies, but with politics at your office, with manipulation in your relationships, with strategies designed to outmaneuver you in business, in social circles, in life itself. You're about to master the timeless principles that have shaped history's greatest victories and most devastating defeats. From ancient battlefields to modern boardrooms, these 33 strategies reveal the hidden patterns of conflict that govern human nature. You'll learn to recognize when you're under attack, how to defend your position without appearing defensive, and most importantly, how to seize the initiative and dictate the terms of engagement in any situation you face. These are battle-tested tactics pulled from Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Sun Tzu, and dozens of history's most formidable strategic minds, translated into practical wisdom you can deploy immediately. It's time to level the playing field. Chapter 1. Declare war on your enemies. Life is endless battle and conflict, and you cannot fight effectively unless you can identify your enemies. People are subtle and evasive, disguising their intentions, pretending to be on your side. You need clarity. Learn to smoke out your enemies, to spot them by the signs and patterns that reveal hostility. Then, once you have them in your sights, inwardly declare war. Your enemies are not your curse. They are your compass. As the opposite poles of a magnet create motion, your enemies can fill you with purpose and direction. They are people who stand in your way, who represent what you loathe, people to react against. They are a source of energy. Without them, you are lost and confused, unable to tell the difference between friend and foe. Think of yourself as always about to go into battle. Everything depends on your frame of mind and how you look at the world. A shift of perspective can transform you from a passive and confused bystander into a motivated and creative fighter. Focus on an enemy. It can be someone who blocks your path or sabotages you. It can be someone who has hurt you or fought you unfairly. It can even be an abstraction. Stupidity, smugness, vulgar materialism. Once you feel clear and motivated, you will have space for true friendship and true compromise. We live in an era where people are seldom directly hostile. The rules of engagement have changed, and so must your notion of the enemy. People hardly ever attack you openly anymore, showing their intentions, their desire to destroy you. Instead, they are political and indirect, although the world is more competitive than ever. Outward aggression is discouraged, so people have learned to go underground, to attack unpredictably and craftily. Many use friendship as a way to mask aggressive desires. They come close to you to do more harm because a friend knows best how to hurt you. Then there are those who master moral warfare, playing the victim, making you feel guilty for something unspecified you have done. The battlefield is full of these warriors, slippery, evasive, and clever. Without getting paranoid, you need to realize that there are people who wish you ill and operate indirectly. Identify them, and you will suddenly have room to maneuver. You can stand back and wait and see, or you can take action to avoid the worst. But whatever you do not be the naive victim. Do not find yourself constantly retreating, reacting to your enemy's maneuvers. People are usually good at hiding their hostility, but they unconsciously give off signals. Register any change in the emotional temperature. Unusual chumminess, a new desire to exchange confidences, excessive praise of you to third parties. Trust your instincts. If someone's behavior seems suspicious, it probably is. You can sit back and read the signs, or you can actively work to uncover your enemies. Say or do something that can be read in more than one way. That may be superficially polite, but could also indicate a slight coolness or be seen as a subtle insult. A friend may wonder but will let it pass. The secret enemy, though, will react with anger. Any strong emotion, and you will know that something is boiling under the surface. When facing a large enemy, an organization, or a person hidden behind some complicated network, take aim at one part of the group. A leader, a spokesman, a key member of the inner circle. Never aim at a vague, abstract enemy. It is hard to drum up the emotions to fight such a bloodless battle. Personalize the fight, eyeball to eyeball. Danger is everywhere. There are always hostile people and destructive relationships. The only way to break out of a negative dynamic is to confront it. Repressing your anger, avoiding the person threatening you, always looking to conciliate. These common strategies spell ruin. Avoidance of conflict becomes a habit, and you lose the taste for battle. Instead of internalizing a bad situation, externalize it and face your enemy. It is the only way out. Enemies bring many gifts. They motivate you and focus your beliefs. They give you a standard by which to judge yourself. A tough opponent will bring out the best in you, and the bigger the opponent, the greater your reward, even in defeat. You have aggressive impulses that you are forced to repress. An enemy supplies you with an outlet for these drives. At last, you have someone on whom to unleash your aggression without feeling guilty. Always keep the search for and use of enemies under control. It is clarity you want, not paranoia. It is the downfall of many tyrants to see an enemy in everyone. Keep your suspicions to yourself, so that if you are wrong, no one will know. Also, beware of polarizing people so completely that you cannot back off. Draw clear lines between you and your enemies, but know when to retreat. Even if you must fight, create the impression that you are a person of peace who occasionally goes to war. Your enemy is the polar star that guides you. Given that direction, you can enter battle. Chapter 2. The Counterbalance Strategy. The battlefield overwhelms. Voices clamor for attention. Urgent matters pile up, each demanding immediate action. Goals blur. Plans dissolve. The forest disappears behind an endless wall of trees. This is where presence of mind becomes your greatest asset. The ability to step back from chaos and see the entire landscape with perfect clarity. Every great general possesses this quality. The secret? Preparation. Master the details long before the first shot is fired. Let others marvel at your calm detachment, attributing it to some mystical gift. Their confusion works in your favor. Humans pride themselves on rationality, the capacity to think, to reason. This supposedly separates us from the animal kingdom. But there's another truth. We laugh, we cry, we feel the full spectrum of human emotion. We are emotional creatures, just as much as rational ones. And despite our self-image as logical beings guided by careful thought, emotions dictate behavior far more often than reason does. Here's the reality. Your emotions overpower your mind. This weakness only reveals itself during adversity, precisely when strength matters most. More knowledge won't save you in the heat of battle. Neither will greater intellect. What fortifies your mind and masters your emotions is internal discipline and toughness. No one can teach this. No book delivers it. Like any true discipline, it arrives only through practice, through experience, through endurance, even through suffering. The first step is recognition. You must see the need for this strength. want it desperately enough to pursue it relentlessly. Few things corrode the spirit like dependency on others. Relying on people makes you vulnerable to a cascade of destructive emotions. Betrayal stings, disappointment weighs heavy, frustration gnaws. All of them destabilize your mental equilibrium. Self-reliance becomes critical. Expand your skills, build confidence in your own judgment. Here's what most people miss. They overestimate others' abilities. After all, everyone works hard to project competence while underestimating their own capabilities. Correct this imbalance. Trust yourself more. Trust others less. But understand this distinction. Self-reliance doesn't mean drowning in trivia. Learn to separate minor details that others can handle from major issues that demand your full attention and care. The difference determines whether you lead or merely react. Chapter 3. Create a sense of urgency and desperation. The paralysis of choice weighs heavy. You could do this, you could do that. Options multiply, yet none feel necessary. Freedom becomes a burden. Where do you go today? What do you accomplish? Daily routines provide cover, but the nagging thought persists. So much time wasted, so much potential untapped. Then urgency strikes. Usually it comes from outside. Deadlines loom, commitments pile up, responsibility lands in your lap without warning. Freedom vanishes. You must act. You must fix this. The transformation is immediate. Suddenly you feel more alive, more focused. Every action carries weight and necessity. But eventually the pressure lifts. Normal patterns return. And when urgency fades, you have no idea how to summon it back. Military leaders have wrestled with this question for millennia. How do you motivate soldiers, make them aggressive, desperate to win? Some generals relied on rousing speeches. Those with talent saw results. But over 2,000 years ago, the Chinese strategist Sun Tzu recognized a problem. Listening to speeches is passive. The effect doesn't last. Sun Tzu spoke instead of death ground, a position where an army stands trapped against mountains, rivers, or forests with no escape route. Without retreat as an option, soldiers fight with double or triple their normal spirit. Death becomes visceral, immediate. Sun Tzu advocated deliberately placing troops on death ground to ignite that desperate edge that makes men fight like hell. Cortés used this exact strategy in Mexico. It remains the only reliable way to create real fire in the belly. The world runs on necessity. People change only when they must. They feel urgency only when their lives depend on it. Death ground extends far beyond battlefields. It's any situations where you feel trapped without options. Real pressure builds at your back. Retreat is impossible. Time runs out. Failure, a form of psychic death, stares directly at you. Act or suffer the consequences. Here's the reality. Humans are creatures intimately tied to environment. You respond viscerally to circumstances and to the people around you. When situations are easy and relaxed, when people are friendly and warm, natural tension unwinds. Boredom creeps in. Energy fades. The environment fails to challenge you, though you may not recognize it. But place yourself in high-stakes circumstances, psychological death ground, and everything changes. Your body surges with energy in response to danger. Your mind sharpens. Urgency becomes forced, unavoidable. Time wasting ends immediately. The trick is using this effect deliberately, practicing it as a wake-up call. 5 specific actions can put you on psychological death ground. Reading about them accomplishes nothing. You must implement them. They are forms of pressure to apply to yourself. Depending on whether you need a low-intensity jolt or a real shock, adjust the intensity. The scale is yours to control. Stake everything on a single throw. In 1937, 28-year-old Lyndon B. Johnson, then Texas director of the National Youth Administration, faced a dilemma. Congressman James Buchanan had died suddenly. Texas voters typically returned incumbents to office, so congressional seats opened only every 10 or 20 years. Johnson wanted to be in Congress by 30. He didn't have 10 years to wait. But he was young, virtually unknown in Buchanan's 10th district. He would face political heavyweights whom voters heavily favored. Why attempt something doomed to fail? The race would waste money. Humiliation from a bad loss could derail long-term ambitions. Johnson considered all this, then decided to run. Over the following weeks, he campaigned with ferocious intensity, visiting every backwater village and town in the district, shaking the poorest farmer's hand, sitting in drugstores, meeting people who had never spoken with a candidate before. He pulled every trick available, old-style rallies and barbecues, newfangled radio ads. He worked night and day relentlessly. By race's end, Johnson was hospitalized for exhaustion and appendicitis. But in one of American political history's great upsets, he had won. By staking his future on one throw, Johnson created a death ground situation. His body and spirit responded with the necessary energy. Too often you try multiple things simultaneously, thinking one will bring success. But in these situations, your mind diffuses. Your efforts become half-hearted. Better to take on one daunting challenge, even one others consider foolish. Your future is at stake. You cannot afford to lose. So you don't. Act before you're ready. In 49 BC, Roman senators allied with Pompey, fearing Julius Caesar's growing power, ordered the great general to disband his army or be declared a traitor. When Caesar received this decree, he was in southern Gaul with only 5,000 men. The rest of his legions remained far north, where he had been campaigning. He had no intention of obeying, that would be suicide, but weeks would pass before the bulk of his army could join him. Unwilling to wait, Caesar told his captains, "Let the die be cast." He and his 5,000 men crossed the Rubicon, the river marking the border between Gaul and Italy. Leading troops onto Italian soil meant war with Rome. No turning back now. Fight or die. Caesar was forced to concentrate his forces, waste not a single man, act with speed and maximize creativity. He marched on Rome. By seizing the initiative, he frightened the senators, forcing Pompey to flee. Too often you wait too long to act, particularly when facing no outside pressure. Sometimes it's better to act before you think you're ready. To force the issue and cross the Rubicon. You'll take opponents by surprise. You'll have to maximize your resources. You've committed yourself, no turning back. Under pressure, your creativity will flourish. Do this often, and you'll develop your ability to think and act fast. Make it you against the world. Compared to football, baseball is slow with few outlets for aggression. This created a problem for hitter Ted Williams, who played best when angry, when he felt it was him against the world. Creating this mood on the field was difficult, but Williams discovered a secret weapon, the press. He developed a habit of insulting sports writers, either by refusing cooperation or through verbal abuse. Reporters returned the favor, writing scathing articles, questioning his character and talent, trumpeting the slightest drop in his batting average. When the press hammered Williams, he played best. He would go on hitting tears, as if to prove them wrong. In 1957, during a year-long feud with the papers, he played perhaps his greatest season and won the batting title at 40. An advanced age for baseball. As one journalist wrote, hate seems to activate his reflexes like adrenaline stimulates the heart. Animosity is his fuel. For Williams, the animosity of press and public created constant pressure he could read, hear, and feel. They hated him, doubted him, wanted to see him fail. He would show them, and he did. A fighting spirit needs an edge, some anger and hatred for fuel. So don't sit back waiting for people to get aggressive. Irritate and infuriate them deliberately. Feeling cornered by a multitude who dislike you, you'll fight like hell. Hatred is powerful. Remember, in any battle, you're putting your name and reputation on the line. Your enemies will relish your failure. Use that pressure to fight harder. Keep yourself restless and unsatisfied. Napoleon had many qualities that made him perhaps history's greatest general, but one quality raised him to heights and kept him there: boundless energy. During campaigns, he worked 18 to 20-hour days. If necessary, he went without sleep for days, yet sleeplessness rarely reduced his capacities. He would work in the bath, at the theater, during dinner parties. Keeping his eye on every detail of war, he would ride endless miles on horseback without tiring or complaining. Certainly Napoleon had extraordinary endurance, but there was more. He never let himself rest, was never satisfied. In 1796, in his first real command position, he led the French to remarkable victory in Italy, then immediately launched another campaign in Egypt. Unhappy with how that war progressed and lacking political power that cut into his military control, he returned to France and conspired to become first consul. This achieved, he immediately set out on his second Italian campaign. On he went, immersing himself in new wars, new challenges that required limitless energy. If he didn't meet the crisis, he would perish. When you're tired, it's often because you're bored. When no real challenge faces you, mental and physical lethargy sets in. Sometimes death only comes from a lack of energy, Napoleon once said. Lack of energy comes from lack of challenges, from taking on less than you're capable of. Take a risk and your body and mind will respond with surging energy. Make risk a constant practice. Never let yourself settle down. Soon, living on death ground will become addictive. You won't be able to do without it. When soldiers survive brushes with death, they often feel exhilaration they want to experience again. Life has more meaning in death's face. The risks you keep taking, the challenges you keep overcoming, are like symbolic deaths that sharpen your appreciation of life. Chapter 4. Avoid the snares of groupthink. The challenge of leadership reveals itself quickly. Everyone has their own agenda. Push too hard with authority and resentment festers. People rebel in silent, invisible ways. Lean too far toward being easygoing, and natural selfishness takes over. Control evaporates. The solution requires creating a chain of command where people don't feel constrained by your influence yet still follow your lead. This is the paradox you must master. Place the right people in position, not automatons who mindlessly execute orders, but individuals who understand and enact the spirit of your ideas. They need enough autonomy to think, enough alignment to move in the same direction. Make commands clear and inspiring. Focus attention on the team, not the leader. When people see themselves as part of something larger, when the mission matters more than the figurehead, commitment deepens. Clarity eliminates confusion. Inspiration provides fuel. Create genuine participation. People need to feel involved, heard, valued. But here's where the trap opens. Groupthink. The irrationality of collective decision-making destroys more organizations than authoritarianism ever could. Groupthink feels collaborative. It appears democratic. Everyone gets a voice. Everyone contributes. Consensus emerges. But what actually happens? The loudest voices dominate. Dissent gets suppressed to maintain harmony. Critical thinking dies under the weight of conformity. Bad ideas gain momentum because no one wants to break the group's cohesion. Decisions become compromised, watered down, or dangerously flawed. The group convinces itself it's right simply because it's a group. Individual judgment, the very thing that makes people valuable, gets sacrificed at the altar of collective agreement. Innovation dies. Risk assessment fails. The team marches confidently toward disaster, united in its wrongness. Avoid this snare. Encourage participation, but never relinquish unity of command. Final decisions must rest somewhere definitive. You can gather input, seek counsel, listen to perspectives. You should. But when the moment comes to decide, someone must decide. That someone is you. Project Fairness. Make yourself look like a paragon of it. People need to believe the system is just, that their voices matter, that leadership serves the collective good rather than personal interest. This belief maintains morale and trust. But fairness and democracy are not the same thing. You can be fair while maintaining clear authority. You can value people's input while reserving the right to make final calls. You can create an environment where people feel heard without letting the committee make every decision. The balance is delicate. Too much control and you stifle the very talents you need. Too little and chaos reigns, or worse. Groupthink takes over, and the collective makes decisions no single rational person would make alone. Walk this line carefully. Build a team that thinks independently but moves together. Listen to voices without letting them drown out judgment. Create participation without surrendering command. Because in the end, when things go wrong, and they will, the group won't take responsibility. Individuals will scatter. Blame will diffuse, but you, the leader, will stand alone answering for the outcome. Unity of command isn't about ego, it's about accountability. It's about ensuring someone has the clear authority to cut through noise, override groupthink, and make the hard calls that groups cannot make. Lead with clarity. Listen with genuine interest. Decide with conviction. Never let the comfort of consensus replace the necessity of command. Chapter 5. Pick your battles carefully. Limitations define reality. Your energy has boundaries. Your skills reach only so far. The danger isn't in having limits. It's in refusing to acknowledge them. Seduction comes in many forms. A glittering prize appears within reach. An opportunity promises transformation. A challenge seems too important to ignore. So you extend beyond your capacity. Stretch your resources thin. Push past what's sustainable. The result is always the same: exhaustion and vulnerability. Know your limits, not as an exercise in pessimism, but as an act of strategic clarity. Understanding what you can sustain, what you can win, what costs you can bear. This knowledge separates wise leaders from reckless ones. Pick your battles carefully. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every opportunity merits pursuit. Not every enemy requires confrontation. The instinct is to fight everything, to prove yourself capable, to never back down. This instinct destroys more ambitions than cowardice ever could. Consider the hidden costs of war. Time lost, hours, days, months spent on conflict that could have advanced other goals. Political goodwill squandered, allies who grow tired of your battles, neutrals who turn against you, supporters who question your judgment. An embittered enemy bent on revenge. Someone who might have remained indifferent now becomes obsessed with your destruction. These costs compound. They accumulate silently while you focus on the immediate fight. By the time you notice, you've spent resources you didn't know you had on victories that don't matter. Sometimes it's better to wait. Patience feels passive, even cowardly. But waiting is its own form of action. Time weakens some enemies while strengthening your position. Circumstances shift. New opportunities emerge. What seemed urgent today becomes irrelevant tomorrow. Undermine enemies covertly rather than confronting them directly. A frontal assault announces your intentions, mobilizes their defenses, forces them to fight back with everything they have. But subtle pressure applied consistently, weaknesses exploited quietly, alliances built in shadows. These methods achieve results without triggering desperate resistance. When battle cannot be avoided, control the terms. Don't fight on ground your enemy chooses. Don't engage at the time that suits them. Don't accept their framing of what's at stake. Aim at their weaknesses, not their strengths. Every opponent has vulnerabilities, resources they lack, positions they can't defend, assumptions they haven't questioned. Strike there. Force them to fight where they're uncomfortable, unprepared, overextended. Make the war expensive for them and cheap for you. This is the mathematics of sustainable conflict. If every engagement costs you more than it costs them, you'll lose regardless of your skill or determination. But if you impose costs while minimizing your own, even a weaker position becomes tenable. Economy of force isn't about being stingy. It's about efficiency. Every action should accomplish multiple objectives. Every expenditure of resources should generate returns. Every battle should weaken the enemy more than it weakens you. Fight with perfect economy, and you can outlast even the most powerful foe. Their greater resources become a liability when you force them to spend recklessly. Their superior strength means nothing when you avoid direct confrontation. Their advantages erode while your position strengthens. This requires discipline. The temptation to prove yourself, to meet force with force, to escalate when challenged. These impulses feel natural, even righteous. Resist them. Strategic patience outlasts tactical aggression. The enemy who wins every battle but exhausts themselves in the process ultimately loses. The opponent who chooses battles carefully, fights economically, and knows when to withdraw. They're still standing when the dust settles. Your limitations aren't weaknesses to overcome through force of will. They're constraints that demand strategic thinking. Work within them. Use them to filter opportunities, assess risks, and avoid the seductive traps that destroy the overconfident. Pick your battles. Fight the ones you can win. Avoid the ones you can't. And never, ever let pride convince you that all battles are worth fighting. Chapter 6. Turn the tables. The instinct to strike first runs deep. Moving first feels powerful, seizing initiative, dictating terms, forcing others to react. But this instinct misleads. Moving first often puts you at a disadvantage. The moment you act, you expose your strategy. Your opponent sees your capabilities, reads your intentions, understands your priorities. Options that seemed open before now narrow. You've committed to a direction. Flexibility disappears. Meanwhile, your opponent gains everything you've lost. They see your position. They understand your approach. They can adapt, counter, exploit the weaknesses your move revealed. You thought you were controlling the situation. Instead, you've handed them information and options. Discover the power of holding back. Let the other side move first. This isn't passivity. It's strategic patience. When they act, they expose themselves just as you would have. Their strategy becomes visible. Their limitations show. Their priorities reveal themselves. Now you have flexibility. You can counterattack from any angle. You're not locked into a predetermined response. You can adapt to what they've actually done rather than what you guessed they might do. Psychology plays heavily here. The pressure to act, to do something, to not appear weak. This pressure builds inside you. Resisting it requires discipline. But the same pressure affects your opponent even more intensely once they've made their move. They've committed. They're invested. They're watching to see if their gambit works. If your opponents are aggressive, use it against them. Aggressive people hate waiting. They need action, results, validation. This impatience becomes their vulnerability. Bait them. Give them an opening that looks tempting. Make yourself appear vulnerable in a controlled way. Let them think they see an advantage. Their eagerness to exploit it will override their caution. They'll rush in. They'll attack before they're ready, before they've fully assessed the situation, before they've secured their own position. That rash attack leaves them weak, overextended, exposed, committed to a course of action that you anticipated. Use their impatience as a weapon. Their eagerness to get at you throws them off balance. They wanted to be the aggressor, the one in control. Instead, their own aggression becomes the mechanism of their downfall. This works because of a fundamental psychological principle. People in motion tend to stay in motion. Once someone commits to an aggressive approach, stopping or reversing becomes psychologically difficult. Momentum carries them forward, even when rational assessment would suggest retreat. They've identified as the aggressor. Pulling back feels like failure. In difficult moments, don't despair or retreat. The natural response to disadvantage is to give up or run. Both responses accept the current framing of the situation. But situations are more fluid than they appear. Any situation can be turned around. The key is refusing to accept the apparent reality as fixed. What looks like weakness can become strength. What appears as disadvantage can transform into opportunity. Learn to hold back. Wait for the right moment. This waiting isn't passive hoping. It's active preparation. You're watching, learning, positioning. You're letting the situation develop. You're allowing your opponent's moves to create the vulnerabilities you'll exploit. The right moment comes. It always does. Your opponent overextends. They make an assumption. They expose a flank. They commit resources they can't easily recover. That's when you launch the unexpected counterattack. Unexpected is critical. Because you held back, because you didn't follow the obvious pattern, your move surprises them. They weren't prepared for this. They thought they understood the dynamic. They thought you were weak, passive, or defeated. Weakness becomes strength through timing and psychology. The opponent who thinks you're beaten stops watching as carefully. The aggressor who believes they're winning grows careless. The person who moved first exhausts their best options while you've preserved yours. This approach requires psychological fortitude. Holding back while being attacked feels terrible. Every instinct screams to respond immediately, to prove yourself, to not appear weak. Social pressure intensifies this. Observers often mistake strategic patience for timidity. Resist. The immediate psychological comfort of responding isn't worth the strategic disadvantage. Let them think you're passive. Let them underestimate you. Let them commit to their approach. Then turn the tables. Use the momentum they generated against them. Transform their aggression into your weapon. Convert their impatience into your advantage. The counterattack, when it comes, carries double force. First, the actual tactical blow, unexpected, well-timed, aimed at vulnerabilities they exposed through their own actions. Second, the psychological impact, the shock of reversal, the realization they've been maneuvered, the sudden understanding that what they thought was weakness was preparation. Balance shifts. The aggressor becomes the defender. The pursuer becomes the pursued. And you, who appeared weak by holding back, reveal that patience was never weakness. It was strategy. Chapter 7. Know your enemy. The real target isn't the army you face, it's the mind running it. Understand how that mind works, and you have the key to deceiving and controlling it. Battles are won and lost in the mental landscape before troops ever engage. Train yourself to read people. They send signals constantly, unconscious leaks about their innermost thoughts and intentions. Body language, word choice, what they avoid discussing, where their attention focuses. These signals reveal more than deliberate communication ever could. Present a friendly front. It lets you watch closely and mine for information. People guard themselves around perceived threats. They relax around those they consider allies or harmless. Use this. The more comfortable they feel, the more they reveal. Beware of projection. The greatest obstacle to understanding others is assuming they think like you. They don't. Your emotions, your logic, your values, these are yours alone. Projecting them onto your opponent blinds you to who they actually are. Think as they think. This requires setting aside your own framework. What motivates them? What do they fear? What patterns guide their decisions? What assumptions do they never question? Get inside their mental model, and you can predict their moves before they make them. Find their psychological weaknesses. Everyone has them: blind spots, insecurities, compulsions, emotional triggers. These weaknesses are the leverage points. Apply pressure there, and you can unhinge their minds, making them act against their own interests. Know your enemy's psychology, and you don't need to outfight them. You just need to outthink them. Chapter 8. Negotiate while advancing. Negotiation is war by other means. People will try to take from you at the bargaining table what they couldn't win through direct confrontation. They'll dress it up with appeals to fairness, morality, reasonableness. Don't be fooled. These are tactical weapons, not genuine principles. Negotiation is about maneuvering for power and placement. The other side wants the best position possible. So do you. Every concession shifts the balance. Every compromise redistributes value. Pretending otherwise is naive. Put yourself in a strong position before talks begin. If you're weak entering negotiation, the other side will nibble away at you relentlessly. Each small concession seems reasonable in isolation. Collectively, they strip you of everything you hope to gain. Keep advancing before and during negotiations. Create relentless pressure. Make the other side feel the cost of delay. Show them that time works against them, not for you. This pressure compels them to settle on your terms rather than drag things out, hoping you'll weaken. The more you take, the more you can give back in meaningless concessions. Start from a maximalist position. Demand more than you expect to get. This creates room to compromise while still achieving your actual objectives. What you give back costs you nothing but appears generous to them. Build a reputation for being tough and uncompromising. When people know you don't fold, they arrive at the table already on their heels. They've adjusted their expectations before the first word is spoken. Your reputation does half the work before you even sit down. Never negotiate from weakness. Never stop advancing. Never mistake talk for peace. Chapter 9. Penetrate their minds. Communication is war. The battlefield is the resistant, defensive minds of people you want to influence. The goal is penetration, to advance past their defenses and occupy their mental territory. Anything less is ineffective communication, self-indulgent talk that satisfies you but changes nothing. Infiltrate ideas behind enemy lines. Direct assault rarely works. People resist obvious persuasion. Their defenses activate the moment they sense someone trying to change their mind. So don't announce your intentions. Send messages through small details. Plant seeds rather than delivering lectures. Lure people into reaching your conclusions themselves. When they arrive at an idea on their own, or believe they have, they embrace it. It becomes theirs, not yours. Resistance dissolves because there's nothing to resist. They convince themselves. This requires subtlety. Guide without appearing to guide. Influence without being obvious. Create the conditions for realization rather than forcing it. Adapt your approach to your audience. Some people respond to ideas cloaked in ordinary, familiar forms. Extraordinary concepts wrapped in comfortable language slip past their defenses. They accept radical thoughts because the packaging feels safe. Others, more resistant, more dull, require the opposite. Wake them up with extreme language that bristles with newness. Shock them out of their mental patterns. Make them pay attention through sheer force of unusualness. Avoid static, preachy, overly personal language at all costs. Static language sits there, inert, demanding nothing. Preachy language triggers resistance. People hate being told what to think. Overly personal language makes it about you instead of them, turning communication into confession rather than persuasion. Make your words a spark for action, not passive contemplation. Language should move people, compel them, create urgency. If your communication leads only to nodding agreement followed by inaction, you've failed. Words matter only when they change behavior. Penetrate their minds or waste your breath. There's no middle ground. Chapter 10. Destroy from within. War requires a visible enemy. Without a target to strike, defenses have nowhere to aim. This creates the ultimate advantage. Infiltration. Work from within to bring opponents down. Give them nothing to see or react against. They can't fight what they can't identify. Their weapons, their strategies, their defensive structures all become useless when the threat comes from inside. From this position, you learn their weaknesses intimately. You see the cracks in their organization, the personality conflicts, the failed communication, the resentment simmering beneath the surface. Information that would take years to gather from outside becomes immediately visible from within. Open possibilities for sowing internal dissension. People trust insiders. They share complaints, reveal doubts, express frustrations they'd never voice to outsiders. Use this. Amplify existing tensions. Turn small disagreements into major conflicts. Make allies question each other. Plant seeds of suspicion. The organization begins tearing itself apart while you remain above suspicion. Hide your hostile intentions completely. The moment they suspect you, your advantage evaporates. You become the visible enemy they can fight. So blend in, contribute, appear loyal. Make yourself valuable enough that they depend on you. To take something you want, don't fight those who have it. Join them. Fighting alerts them to your intentions and mobilizes their defenses. Joining disarms them. They see you as an ally, perhaps even an asset. Their guard drops. Then either slowly make it your own or wait for the moment to stage a coup. The slow approach is safer, gradually accumulating influence, building dependencies, positioning yourself as indispensable. By the time they realize what's happening, you've already won. The coup approach is riskier but faster. Wait for the perfect moment, when leadership is weak, when crisis hits, when the organization faces external pressure. Strike decisively. Take control before anyone can organize resistance. No structure can stand long when it rots from within. External attacks can be repelled. Internal decay is fatal. The strongest fortress, the most powerful organization, the most loyal group, all collapse when the foundation crumbles from inside. The enemy you should fear most isn't the one attacking from outside. It's the one already inside, working patiently toward your destruction while wearing a friendly face.